So let's talk about something we've all felt. You know that feeling when you're so focused on winning the race that you completely forget to enjoy the run? It's this universal tension, right? The destination versus the journey. Well, today we're going to dig into a really powerful idea that might just flip the script on how you tackle every single goal you've got. So let's kick things off with a big question, one that gets right to the heart of it all. Where is your focus? I mean, really, is it glued to that finish line way off in the distance? Or is it right here, on the very next step you're about to take? Because trust me, how you answer that changes absolutely everything. You know, for most of us, our default setting is to just chase the result, but this can so easily become a trap. Let's call it the tyranny of the result. It's that awful feeling of being obsessed with an outcome you can't even fully control, which, as you're about to see, is a recipe for stress and, weirdly enough, for not even getting the result you want. So, what does this trap actually feel like in your day-to-day? Well, it's that constant nagging pressure to perform. It's that low-level hum of anxiety about the future, always wondering if you're going to make it. It's that deep fear of falling short, of failing. And maybe the worst part, it just sucks all the joy out of the journey, turning something you used to love into a total grind. Okay, but what if there's a better way? What if you could actually escape this tyranny? Well, there is, and it all comes down to a fundamental shift in your mindset. It's a whole new way of thinking about achievement that we're calling the sovereign process. It's all about taking back control and finding your power in what you're doing right now. And really, this whole idea boils down to one simple, powerful quote. Focus on the process, and if the process is done well, the results will take care of itself. I mean, just let that sink in. It's an idea built on trust in your execution, and it completely reframes what success is all about. So what does that actually mean, the sovereignty of the process? It's a philosophy where you literally enthrone the how. You make your daily actions, your habits, your systems, you make them the king, the sovereign ruler of your attention. The outcome? Well, that just becomes a natural side effect, a byproduct of a process you've executed with excellence. Now, that sounds great in theory, right? But why does it actually work? How does shifting your mindset like this actually lead to real-world success? Okay, let's get into the mechanics behind it. Check this out. It's like a mindset showdown. On the left, you've got the result-first mindset. Your focus, that distant finish line. Your motivation, getting praise from others. And failure, it feels like a catastrophe. But look at the right side. With a process-first mindset, your focus shrinks down to just the next rep. Your motivation comes from the inside, from wanting to achieve mastery. And failure, it's not the end of the world. It's just data you can use to get better. It's a total game changer. And because of that huge shift, you unlock these incredible benefits. When you focus on the next rep, you build deep, lasting skill way better than just dreaming about the trophy. You create this unshakable consistency, it almost becomes automatic. And because you're focused on what you can actually control, your effort, right now, you dramatically lower all that pressure and anxiety. And all of a sudden, the journey itself, the act of doing, becomes its own reward. Okay, so that's the theory, but what does this look like when the rubber hits the road? Let's take a look at this philosophy in action out in the real world. Here it is, a super simple 3-step guide you can use for anything. First, you define the outcome. And this is really important. This isn't about ignoring your goals. Goals give you direction. But once you know where you're going, you move to step 2. You deconstruct the process. What are the key things you have to do over and over? And then step 3, the most important part, you forget about the outcome and pour every ounce of your focus into just that single step. For example, think about an elite athlete, like a basketball player in a huge game. Their mind isn't on the final score. No way. It's on their process. Get my elbow tucked on this next free throw. They're obsessed with perfecting that one repeatable motion because they trust that if they do that right, the points will just naturally follow. And it's the exact same thing for an artist. They can't afford to be paralyzed by the thought of a huge calorie show. Their entire world has to shrink down to the single brushstroke they're making right now. The quality of that one tiny motion is the only thing that matters. Their daily practice is their sovereign. You see this in business too. The really successful entrepreneur, they stop obsessing over the quarterly sales target. Instead, they put all their energy into making their next customer call the most helpful, valuable conversation it can possibly be. They just know that the big sales number is nothing more than a byproduct of hundreds of those excellent little calls. So, we've gone through the theory, we've looked at the examples, now comes the most important part.
How do you actually make this mindset yours? How do you crown your own process? All right, let's make this really practical. Right now, I want you to think of one goal in your life. Could be your career, your health, anything that's causing you a bit of stress or anxiety. You got one? Okay.
Now let's do the mental shift. Stop looking at that giant, scary outcome. Instead, look for the one single, repeatable action that, if you do it consistently and do it well, will drive progress. Is it writing 300 words? Making one phone call? Doing 10 push-ups? Whatever that small, controllable action is, that is your process. Put a crown on it. So, let's end with this thought. A result isn't something you chase down. It's more like a shadow. It's cast by something real, something solid, and that solid thing is your process. So the question to leave with is this: what process are you going to build today to cast the shadow you want to see tomorrow?